And we're back, kids. We're back. And the young man to my right and to your left is in a band that formed in 1998 in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Yep.
Home of red dirt music, and we'll touch up on that in just a second here. Debut album came out in 1999 called Pearl Snaps, which I think that's a cool name. Fitting for you guys. And their single, Como County Blue, was the fastest growing single last year off an independent label. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Jason Boland. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
It's finally cool to actually talk to you in person because
yeah, backstage at Cain's.
Oh yeah, backstage at Cain's. You guys are getting ready to rock it out. Yeah. And we did the phone interview. I don't know. I think it was a few days before you did the gig at Whiskey Jim's. That was cool. You were at home in Austin, chillaxing.
Yeah.
All right. So I got 5 questions. We're gonna do the 5-question interview. Question number 1. And I asked Dustin Pitchley this question when we had him on the show, and he definitely had an answer for me. And so I'm going to ask you a similar question. You've been labeled as a red dirt artist. Does the media putting a label on your music, does that bother you at all? I mean,
no. I mean, it seems like they always have to do something like that. I think it's just to keep football fans, knowing what music you listen to.
Well, what is, and you're gonna have to correct, because I'm a rock kid.
Yeah.
I'm basically, the Cult and all that kind of stuff. What does red dirt mean? What is that?
Red dirt was, like you said, I guess founded in Stillwater. The term, as far as I know of it, came from Bob Childers and guys throughout that scene. I don't know who's actually stuck it on there the first time, but really, when you break it down nowadays in this scene, they're talking about, are you from Oklahoma or from Texas? That's what it seems like.
So it's just kind of more of an identification of...
Yeah, because within the scene, or whatever you want to call it, there's every swath of American music. There's bluegrass, folk, western swing, and rock and roll. So the bands within there, you can't just call it a certain kind of country or this or that, so just... to have something that's not mainstream sounding, you got to slap some label on it. Of course, a major part of the scene is Texas. They call it Texas
You guys
country.
tour Texas quite a bit.
Yeah, they call it Texas country. Well, Oklahomans aren't going to call it Texas country, of course.
No.
So they got to call it something
else.
That's
that Longhorn Sooner rivalry.
That's what it is. It goes back to football. I have to remind people that Oklahoma's a state and not like Villanova. It's not the state of the University of Oklahoma.
Villanova, nice.
It's a whole state,
Okay. Well, you know what? You guys definitely do have a rock undercurrent in your music. I've always said. I'm way into the song "Blowing Through the Hills." I just love that song.
Thank you.
It's just got that raw aggressiveness to it that you kind of see from a good rock song, Especially the intro.
Well, we all grew up listening to it. Merle Haggard didn't grow up listening to AC/DC because they weren't around. This is the only time we've experienced pop culture that we know of, and we went through the '80s, which was the apex of it. Hot pink and tapping, and everything is scary and loud and fast and crazy as you can. So, like anything else, I see it retracting and going the way forward, being the way back. But it influences you because you have access to hearing every form of music now, not just what couple of radio stations you had growing up. And even we were, so much more spoiled than the generation before with all the radio stations we had. And
you grew up in Hara. What was the big radio station that you listened to?
Well, you had the Cat, and you had KRXO. You had the 2 rock stations, and you had KEBC and KXY, keeping everybody country, and KXY. You had 2 country stations you listened to and 2 rock.
Yeah. So, and your music is a reflection of the blending of those 2, I think. Yeah. Okay. Question number 2. You seem to release an album like every couple of years, and you had one last year. So when can we expect a new one? I talked to Grant on the phone the other day about that briefly, and maybe there might be some studio work this fall. But
we might. I'm sure by this fall we'll have at least set our battle plan or be mulling over the material. Might be time to look at doing maybe another live record. It's been a while since the last one.
Was that 02?
Yeah, and then since that we had Somewhere in the Middle, Bourbon Legend, and now Como County. So you know, keep those spaced out so they don't sound just exactly like the last live one. But it might be time to do another one of those. But if not, I'm sure by fall or winter we'll be having the battle plan on what we're going to do and get back in the studio in winter or early spring.
Which do you prefer? I know this isn't a question on here, but hearing you say that, which do you like to do more? Which is more gratifying to you, going into the studio or playing live?
They're totally different. But
apples and oranges?
Yeah. Each night can be different. You know, each night is its own album, so it has its own set of gratifications, and it comes, you know, fast in the course of one evening. But an album, you spend so much time building up to them. If you get done with an album and you're proud of it, that's a different thing. There's no show that can really, no show goes on sale at your table or is going to be what you remembered.
Well, unless you're in Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam seems
yeah, they do all the live ones.
That's really cool. I like how they do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. You know, people